Hello everyone, I'm Eevi Korhonen. I'm the Senior Narrative Designer on Returnal, and I'm here today with Jane Perry, the voice of Selene. It's so nice to be here with you on Atropos.
I'm thrilled to be here with you as well on Atropos, which is so amazing and special. Thank you so much for having me.
And we found this nice quiet corner, mostly free of hostiles.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's try to keep this short. But of course, we know you best as the voice of Selene, but can you talk us a little bit more about your previous work?
Sure thing, yeah. I've done a number of voices in games, and I suppose the one that, along with Selene, that I've worked on the most has been Diana Burnwood in the Hitman franchise. So I've been working on that game for a number of years now. Over the years, I've played many characters, but the other one perhaps that I'm known for is Karen Bowman in Ghost Recon, and then I was in Alien Isolation, and lots of lovely things.
But of course, we're here to talk about Selene today.
Yeah, wonderful Selene.
Yes. So I'm curious to hear, so what interested you in taking this role?
Well, it's really an interesting question, actually, because as a voice actor in computer games, essentially, we have an agent, and the client, i.e. Housemarque, will contact an agent, say, look, this is what we've got. We've got this character, and let's see who we can get to audition for it. So as a voice actor, sometimes you're not really sure what it is you're auditioning for, what the game is, the scope of the game. There's a lot that we don't know at the beginning of the process. So I suppose, in answer to your question, initially, what interested me was based on the material that I had for the audition, and just what I was able to learn about the game from the audition process. And then as we worked on this extraordinary game, I mean, I didn't even know at the beginning that I was actually sort of the only person in it, apart from the young man who plays my son. So that slowly became clear to me that, oh, I see, this is Selene. She's kind of the game, and I got to know her as I recorded the role, and I became really interested in her. The more I got to know her, working on her, I became incredibly fascinated by who she is and the journey that she finds herself on.
And I think we're both kind of delighted to see someone being represented as the protagonist of a video game who doesn't, she has a lot of traits that don't get highlighted a lot.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's so exciting for me. I sort of imagine that Selene and I are maybe the same age. She's probably a lot fitter than I am, I have to say. But, she's a middle-aged mom, essentially. And yet there she is out there in this extraordinary environment, kicking butt, making things happen, kind of trying to figure things out, saving herself, making sense of the world around her. She's a real hero in this story. And you're right, we don't get to see that often. And I think when you consider how many women play games these days, it's really great to have these amazing female role models, for young women to look up to, but also for women like myself to go, oh yeah, I see myself represented in this world. And that's interesting to me. And hopefully the guys like it too.
Yeah, I was drawn to the project for the same reasons. Like Selene was there pretty much from the beginning. So when I was interviewing for the project, we were already talking about kind of like the kind of like crash landing astronaut, and she was going to be she. And I was already like really excited about that, and that she was going to have this dark backstory, and she was going to be, by default of how the story was, she would have to be an older woman. And it was so exciting when we got the first models done, and I was kind of like, I can see wrinkles. In high definition.
I see them when I look in the mirror, and it's just, I don't have the same joyous response that you do, but no, actually I do, because she's a real woman, right? And she's lived a life, and it shows on her face, and it shows in the way she is in the world, and possibly also in the choices that she makes. And that's really interesting, you know, to see a sort of person's biography in some ways etched out in the way they look and the way they are in the world, or in this world.
A lot of the world is mirroring Selene, though. So kind of like you've gone through the whole gamut of Selene's emotions, but what does Selene's journey, like from the crash landing to the end, what does that journey signify to you? What did it mean for you?
Well, I kept feeling when we were working on Selene and recording it, I felt like this is a woman she's on a kind of internal journey in some ways.
Astra, I have returned to the tower, not the crash site. Not this time. Is there any way back? Something's not right here. Looks like a hospital bed.
And I felt like she's really trying to come to terms with her own past, and trying to make sense of some of the things that have happened in her past. And you know, the idea of white shadow sort of beckoning her. You know, the shadow immediately makes me think of Jungian analysis of the shadow, and this sort of drive that she has to integrate perhaps some of the trauma of the past and the things that have happened into who she is now. But of course, that process is difficult sometimes. You know, that sort of hero's journey can be absolutely fraught, and Selene's journey is fraught.
Extremely fraught.
Yes. She has, you know, I mean, almost every day in Selene's life is a tough day. And
yet she persevered.
She perseveres, yeah. I think she's really driven to meet the shadow and to maybe have the opportunity to heal and to integrate the darkness that she carries. And so that's what really struck me about it. And in doing so, you know, and we all have this journey, I think, where we have to come to terms with our past, make sense of our family, some of the things that have happened. And I feel that's what's going on with her. She meets some incredible challenges whilst doing so, and comes across some extraordinary creatures.
We alone must find meaning amidst the flow. Creating our own fate.
That, you know, I think sometimes when you're dealing with these internal things, you can project, not that Selene's projecting, but just in a sort of, once again, a sort of Jungian approach to it, you can project these things onto the world around you that you have to grapple with, and it affects the way you see things. So I think there's incredible depth and undertones psychologically. And then if you want to take it onto just a purely sort of like physical level, she's just out there kicking butt, getting the job done, you know, like, and just doing what she has to do on Atropos.
Yeah, design-wise, it was just fascinating to be literally able to project the character's past and her fears and her thoughts into the world. Because I think a lot of the times we struggle with the storytelling of like, how do we avoid the boring talky sections and kind of like having to, like, how do we show and not tell? And we could just basically use the whole planet as our canvas.
Yes, yeah.
And even drop a house or two there.
And yes, exactly, yeah. And I think what's so interesting about the way you designed this character is that, you know, she's also got a job to do, like she's a scientist, so she's got this incredible facility physically, you know, to shoot and to run and to do whatever she needs to do to survive physically, but she's also analyzing, you know, everything on this planet and using her scientific mind to make sense of things in order to survive, but also, you know, as a scientist, you know, logging the things that she finds to just try to understand the world that she's in. So I love that side of her. She's got, you know, she's firing on all engines really, mentally and physically and I suppose spiritually as well.
Exactly. That was, to me, very important, that we didn't create this character who seemed like a space marine, that they actually had a different job and they just kind of like rolled with the punches, like, okay, today I'm just going to have to shoot a whole bunch of aliens to get through the day. But that to me was very important. And when we were developing the game, I pushed really hard that we would have other verbs for the player besides shoot and jump. And the scanning came through that. And to me, that would be what we would, as humans, do. If we landed on an alien planet, we'd just start cataloging everything, figure out what is it, what does it do, can we monetize it somehow?
That's right. How can we use
or weaponize it, maybe? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so that to me was very important, that we kind of like utilize and showcase the scientist in her. Even though most of the game is very explosion-y and action-y, but in the quieter moments, especially when she kind of like reflects on things, it's more like a scientist trying to make sense of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that a lot about her. And I think it's a great mechanism to tell her story.
Did playing Selene pose any new challenges for you as an actress?
I think because she's so active, you obviously have the text which you have to deliver, but also the pre-life to the text. In other words, if she's running, then you have to provide the breath for that. And Selene runs a lot.
Yes.
And so there were times in the sessions where I'd sort of be crouched on the floor because I literally felt like I was going to faint from hyperventilating, just breathing so much. And I think because she goes to these quite dark places in her own mind, I would feel quite exhausted at the end of it.
Astro received my signal. Then that's it. White shadow.
Like we would maybe have a 4-hour recording session, and I would just kind of go home and crawl through the front door and sort of rest and recover, because you sort of have to go there yourself in some ways. So that was challenging, and of course it is just Selene, and in other projects it's you will be working with other actors, or at least there's other lines that the director will be reading for you, so you're reacting to various things. Whereas I think with Selene, really she is reacting to what she's seeing around her. So the engagement of my own imagination in those recording sessions was quite full on. So
I wish we had this for you.
Oh, me too. That would be great. Half the work's done just seeing this amazing environment.
But yeah, I can imagine it was a little bit different. Kind of like most of the dialogue is actually monologue.
Exactly.
And we were kind of like considering early on in the development, like, should there be other characters for her to talk with? And kind of like we went through the pros and cons, and especially kind of like, is it something that we have time to do?
Yeah.
Because we really wanted to focus on kind of like Selene. She was still the star. And in the end, it kind of like felt actually the right decision to cut everyone else away, because it increased that sense of isolation. Like there is no respite. There is no one else you can talk to except you can hear the crazed voices of other Selenes.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of like helps heighten that particular challenge and, well, her hell almost that she is.
This was taken after I left. Why? Hello? Who is up there?
So, did you do anything special to get into her mindset?
That's an interesting question, because for your viewers who might not know, when you voice a character in a computer game, you are never given a script in advance. So in other words, you never have the opportunity to read the story from beginning, middle, and end. Therefore, you have no opportunity to sort of prepare, make choices, or even learn about your character. So getting into the mindset requires assistance, and that assistance comes from your director, basically. So on Returnal, I had a voice director whose name is Damien Goodwin, and then Damien would work really closely with Greg Loudon and Toivo Kahlo. So they were all in the session with me, explaining to me exactly what's going on in any given moment that I had to perform. And I feel like in some ways, my performance is really a group effort between myself, Damien, Greg, and Toivo, because of their input. And Damien is so eloquent. He has such a beautiful way of explaining things, and really would encourage me to explore the nuances of Selene and what she's going through. So that's how I got into the mindset, really was with the assistance from the people who are also in the session with me. And that's a really, really important relationship between a voice actor and their director. It's crucial in a way. So I owe a lot to Damien.
That can't be here.
I think I am reliving my memories in that house, but not fully. They're corroded. Some parts are missing, others seem manufactured. But I can remember the torment, feeling like I was losing my mind.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated to hear that, because kind of like on the story side, we worked quite hard to make it ambiguous and kind of like make sure that there were those different interpretations available to the players. Is this real? Is this actually happening? Like, what is she going through in those house sequences? Is this a memory? Is this something that is a twisted memory? Is this something that she wanted to happen? Is the planet just kind of like tormenting her in a way? So it was kind of like very important that everything that we put into the world and everything we put into her lines would have these kind of like very heavy nuances, kind of like, or very layered meanings, and would reference things here and there, and you would find the same phrases in multiple places.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sometimes wonder, like, oh, how is she gonna do this? Like, how is she gonna deliver all of this meaning that we tried to pack into this single piece here?
Yeah, I think you just take it moment by moment, and you try to bring as much, I suppose, truth and your own personal meaning to it with every line that you deliver. And maybe that is the gift in some ways of not having access to the whole script. You can't, you just have to play what's right in front of you in some ways. And I think for, games in general, maybe this game is an exception in the sense that there's not a lot of subtext going on, usually in games. So the players are just playing what's happening in the moment. Here's a problem, I'm gonna fix it by shooting this guy or telling this person to do that or whatever. And as I say, there is a lot of, there's a lot of psychology, as we touched on before in this game. Subtext, maybe not. So just being in the moment is all you can do. And then you let the player decide what's going on in this moment. And maybe that's also, how they receive it. It's open to their interpretation.
Yeah. That's my favorite part, at least. Kind of like that we left it open and we refused to say which is the real version of events. I actually enjoy so much reading what the players theorize, and I kind of feel like even if we went out and said like this is the canonical event, I think that would just rob it of this kind of like magic.
Yes. And
it would rob players the opportunity to come up with their own theories, because I think some of them are way better than anything I could have even thought up. And I think it says something about what they pick out from that story, what they kind of like focus on. So it's a really fascinating thing. Like if I come across Returnal fans, I would love to I always love to hear their theory. Like, was it real? Was it not? It seems to be like a very heavy division in internet, like the team real and team fake.
Yes, yeah, I know. That must be so fascinating for you, having created all of this, to see how it's received and to see how people interpret it. And yeah, that's hugely enjoyable to see the responses to it. And I wonder sometimes from your perspective and Housemarque's perspective, if you even know what you've created in some ways.
A monster.
A monster. Because it does, you know, it does go into such deep territory. And it will affect people in different ways. So that must be so fascinating just to see the feedback and the interpretations of it. And it is shrouded in this mystery. And I think that's so clever too, because it keeps people guessing and engaged and, you know, in the story and wanting to figure it out as much as Selene wants to figure it out.
And I think because games are an interactive medium, you can only create like half the story, because the players, by playing it, by interacting with it and making the choices and interpreting those choices that they do, they create the other half of the story. So I don't think I can even say that, you know, I have the one true version of the story, because you know, I didn't play it for you. I didn't play it for anyone else.
Right.
So it's really created together with the players.
Yes, yeah, that's true. It's a sort of co-creation, which is wonderful. Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on your most enjoyable part of this process. Like, what has to you been the best part about this all?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I have so enjoyed seeing, you know, the end result. Because when you're in the recording studio, you really are just working with the lines, and then every now and then there would be a small video graphic that would be shown to me, just so I could get sort of context as to where I am, or maybe it's a question of timing. I reach out for this thing and I have to react to it at a certain point.
Such strange markings. Where did this...
But you don't really get a sense of the game until you start to see, you know, the trailer and the images on YouTube and you know, and I found that, like, I was blown away by how great this game looks. It's such a just an amazing world that you've created, and I found that really thrilling, and I felt quite chuffed. I was like, oh, I'm in that.
Yes. But I think I'm seeing the astronaut over there, so I think it's time that we start packing up and try to get off this planet.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you, Jane. And, you know, hope to see more Returnal and more Atropos in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
PlayStation